Hey, good evening. Welcome back to Aegis Defense. So, an event just occurred last night at about 12:52 p.m. in Rochester, New York. A vehicle had rammed into an SUV and detonated. It ended up killing 3 people and injuring 5 in the area. Now, this doesn't seem to be connected to terrorism in any way, and initial reports coming out are showing that this person may have been unfortunately suicidal, but it did cause the deaths of several people. But the reason I really wanted to talk about this is because of what this represents on a larger scale and with the current state of the world that we're in. Now, one of the big mantras that I have on this channel is being prepared, not scared. And I want all of you prepared, not scared. So how do we do that? Well, first thing is that we can be aware of the world around us, paying attention, unfortunately, to the clown politics that are happening today, but also being vigilant, having our head up, paying attention to our surrounding environment, and paying attention to where threats can come from. Okay, so that's why I wanted to cover this, because in a worst case scenario, if this had been connected to a terrorist group or a lone wolf or something like this, it could have been much more catastrophic. I was in the bomb squad community for a long time while I was in the military and with other 3-letter organizations. And the effects of vehicle-borne IED, and we've seen them in the United States before, in the 90s with the Murray Building bombing in Oklahoma City, and then with the World Trade Center bombing as well, that a vehicle packed with explosives can cause significant damage and harm to human life, okay? And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because right now, I mean, and this is happening not just in our country, but across the globe, we're having, in the Western world, there are porous borders everywhere. But of course, we're going to focus on our own border right now. Our own countrymen and Customs Border Patrol officers have caught known terrorists on the terrorist watch list coming across our border. And these are people coming from countries that are in conflict with the United States on a moral and philosophical level. And these are people from places such as Iran, in addition to having people that are attached to the cartels coming across the border. And I wanted to draw attention to that. Why? Because as things progress with the state of affairs, I believe that there could be the likelihood that you may see more things like IEDs and vehicle-borne IEDs on our own soil. Now, I don't want that to scare you. I don't want you terrified, because first off, that is what lets terrorists win, if you're living your life in fear. And we are prepared, not scared. But we can be vigilant. So let's look at that for a moment. So I'm going to post right up here just a quick image that's going to give you a comparative charts from DHS and the FBI that shows basic bomb distance standoff charts, okay? And these are just based off of something called estimated net explosive weight values. We call it NEW, okay? And these values are based off of something called a K-factor calculation, which is a big, long algebraic equation that determines, based on how much risk you want to put personnel and infrastructure to, how far you need to get away from an event. Now, something like the Ryder truck that was used by Timothy McVeigh in the Oklahoma City bombing roughly could have anywhere from 4,000 to 7,000 pounds of NEW inside that vehicle. That's what gave it its shattering effect, that ripped the front of that building off. And I'll show a picture of it here as well, so you can see that. We call that the brisance, that shattering effect, okay? Now, had this SUV in Rochester been packed with explosives, and this is just a rough estimation, based on the size of it, you probably could have packed anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000 pounds of NEW inside that vehicle. Okay, so what can we look for ourselves to protect your family, protect yourself, protect your own businesses from these things, and know when to get out of an area and to make phone calls to get law enforcement involved and fire departments and medical response involved should a vehicle-borne IED go off. Okay. Well, first off, what often we saw overseas, and what we saw with the World Trade Center bombing and the Oklahoma City bombing, was bad guys will typically take the suspension out of a vehicle, or they will weld plates together in order to drop the suspension down in that vehicle. Because what's going to end up happening is that there's going to be so much weight packed inside this vehicle. They're trying to maximize their NEW effect and have the most efficiency with that package, okay, the vehicle, in other words. So they're going to basically bottom out that suspension and drive that to their location. Okay, so a vehicle with lower suspension than should be, that is something we can look for. If one side of the vehicle is more uneven than another, that's telling you there's a significant amount of weight inside that vehicle and there could be something up there. Other signs we can look for are scratch and tool marks on a vehicle, wires possibly hanging out of it, leaky, oily substances coming out of a vehicle. Well, that might not be in and of itself one warning or thing to look for that says definitively this is a vehicle-borne IED. No. I mean, how often? I mean, I've got vehicles that leak all kinds of fluids too. Okay. So with that, but it could be just another straw on the camel's back that leads you to start making decisions to keep yourself and your family safe. Other things that we might notice are new parts on a vehicle that are brand new, not factory to it. You might have expired license plates. Paying attention to those license plates and what the registration says can tell us a lot. Or if you happen to be passing by a vehicle, if the VIN number in the window is scratched out, that's another sign that we have seen in vehicle-borne IEDs as well. And then the last of that being tinted out windows that might block our view of that vehicle. Okay, those are a lot of signs that we can look for. Now, in an immediate fashion, if you were ever to see a vehicle pull up to a building or a venue and someone jump out of the vehicle and take off running, that's not a good sign. I mean, that's a big, we've seen that a few times, and that's certainly a warning sign that says now's a good time to start sprinting again, getting yourself out of that location, because that blast wave is about to go off. And we start talking about that blast wave. I'm going to throw up that bomb distance chart again. That blast wave, based off about 2,500 to 3,000 pounds of NEW, we're looking at fragmentation, which is the parts of the car, that's rocks on the ground, the concrete, glass, anything near it is going to have momentum imparted to it from that blast wave, that blast overpressure, and it's going to go a long distance. We're talking about upwards of almost 3,000 feet you need to get away and have frontal and overhead protection to keep that fragmentation from hitting you. Now, the initial blast wave in sight, that blast wave doesn't go as far. However, blast waves are what cause the most amount of damage in an explosion. Okay, the fragmentation doesn't cause much damage. All that does is increase the radius of lethality, but not the overall lethality. That blast wave, that's what's causing catastrophic damage. So another good example of this is that there was an IRA bombing in the 90s in Manchester, England, where a downtown area had a large Ryder truck style, moving truck that rigged with an IED, and it was an IED. In fact, the IED did go off in this downtown area. It had shut down businesses in that area for years. Some of the businesses never recovered. They were gone. They were done after that. Inventory was there, documents, records for running their businesses. Some of these people and their families never recovered from that event. That's how effective these things can be. And that's why we want to be vigilant for this stuff. Okay, because had that happened in a busy downtown area, say like in Rochester or wherever you might be, especially in major metropolitan areas, an explosion of that magnitude going off is going to have major impact on that immediate area, that neighborhood, even that city. So anyways, I just wanted to talk about that for a little bit tonight. So always just remember, don't be terrified about all this. Just be ready and be vigilant. Prepared, not scared. That's what you guys are going to be. So have a good evening. God bless and good night.